You can return to God and be angry at your earthly father. So thank you all so much, right? People around the world donated to Bond at rebuildingtheman.com, or they call 800-411-2663, and we're still committed to pointing the right way for men and women to return to the Father. We have been rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man for the last 27 years. And we tutor counsel. We have a home for young men. We have a credit union that we started so that we can loan the money to the guys and they pay back with interest, because a lot of these guys that come from, as you know, broken families, and they have no credit. And some of them, their mothers used their credit and abused it when they were kids. Their mothers screwed up their own credit, and then they got credit in the children's name. And black mothers tend to do that a lot. It's amazing. So we need your support. Continue to support us. And if you haven't donated to us, please do. Go to rebuildingtheman.com, rebuildingtheman.com, or call 800-411-BOND. Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby. You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border, and then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right? Oh, what the? How you doing, folks? This is the American Anchor Baby. How you doing? Hello, this is my show. Thank you for tuning in. Fat-fingered the button there. Shouldn't have pressed that button. I clicked away from the intro a little too quick. That's not nice, but it's okay. We're starting now. We're here. American Anchor Baby. He calls himself American. How you doing? Appreciate you being here. I see you over there, rumble.com/American Anchor Baby. And we're going to get going. Appreciate that. I got some things on my mind. Some interesting news here. You may know Rob Smith. Rob Smith is exiting the Republican Party. Funny stuff, interesting things. There's other things I want to get into. Marriage. Look, there's so many things. What do you call a vegan that eats meat with every meal? What do you call a vegan that eats meat? Can someone out there in the office, because this is bad. I'm feeling horrible. I'm feeling like I'm burning up. Find me a fan or something. I know they took the fan for Fallen State, but this is bad. It's hot in here. If you could do me a favor, man. But I'm going to keep it pushing. What's up, folks? 888-775-3773. If you see me damp, if you see me wet, it's me working hard, doing the show in the sweltering heat, no biggie. If you want to call and jump on the air. Yeah. That ain't no vegan, says Hondo. You're on the right track, sir. You're on the right... Oh, you beautiful man. Thank you. They found a fan. You're right, Hondo. You're on the right track. That's not a vegan. And we're going to get into the story here. But real quick, Lin Yan Chin, thank you so much, says, we are never late, but arrive precisely when affirmative action allows. We blat. Well, you mostly were blat, but there is some of our DNA in there too. The watermelon, going up. Thank you, Lin Yan Chin. Appreciate that. I know you had another one. That's perfect. Thank you, sir. I know you had another super chat there. Earlier, you wrote, please try to open your show via use of silent prayer in the last half hour of Joel's show. And will you please play my Bible story? Which Bible story you mean, Lin Yan Chin? I'm not sure what you mean. I'll tell you this, though. This fan feels like the silent prayer. We're back, baby. We're back. Appreciate the support, though. You can super chat, buymeacoffee.com/anchorbaby and all that. Okay. Gay black Republican leaves party, writes Newsweek.com. That's their headline, okay? Gay black Republican leaves party. I was betrayed. I was betrayed, writes Rob Smith. You know Rob Smith. Let me get in the middle here. You know Rob Smith a little bit. Let me know if that fan's really loud, folks. But you remember him. He's the Republican. He's the black Republican with the Huuzbind. You know who I'm talking about. If you don't know who I'm talking about, he's a gay black Republican. I don't know what to tell you. Newsweek. It's the news from Newsweek. Rob Smith, a gay and black Republican conservative who was heckled and called racist and homophobic slurs while attending a MAGA event last year, said he is leaving the Republican Party. And you might remember this story a little bit from when Rob Smith went on CNN and he was like, I got called the N-word and the F slur, and there was video of it, and they were calling him the F slur. I didn't hear the N-word personally, but that's just me, okay? And so he went on CNN. I forget when this was, but it was some time ago. Thank you. Appreciate it for the people paying attention to chat, to the background noise. Thanks. So where was I? Rob Smith heckled. You remember the story a little bit, maybe. And he's now leaving the Republican Party. Smith, a longtime conservative commentator, announced he now identifies as politically homeless during an episode of his podcast, Can't Cancel Rob Smith, titled, I Was Betrayed, Rob Smith Speaks Out. And this was yesterday. So pretty freshly politically homeless. Hey, thank you. 888-775-3773. I'm just reading the chat. Okay. So Rob Smith, he's leaving. The reason I don't identify as MAGA anymore, I don't identify as Republican, I don't identify as any of this stuff, is because I saw what the MAGA movement really thought of me. I find this whole thing a little interesting for a number of reasons. Allow me to get into it. I think people wonder what politics is, I guess, and how I think we have an understanding of what its function is and what it does, and it affects our lives and general policies, etc. But I think people wonder, when the rubber meets the road, what is politics? What is the vehicle here? And the vehicle is, I'm learning more and more, is relationships. It's people, obviously. I feel like this is obvious, but it's also yet fun to point out the obvious, 'cause it might be missed. Maybe people aren't thinking about it, but it's relationships. It's people. It's emotions. It's egos. It's what was said, what wasn't said. Relationships. I was betrayed. Rob Smith speaks out. I think we have a little bit of footage here from that clip where he's speaking out. He's speaking out, and he said it on his YouTube channel. I think we have it right here.
So the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists wanted me out of the Republican Party, and guess what? I'm out.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob Smith. I'm sorry, Rob Smith. I'm sorry, Rob Smith. I didn't mean to do that. That was the wrong clip. That's pretty rude. That's mean. We're not goading. We're not laughing. I'm sorry, Rob Smith. I didn't mean to play that one. That one was a joke one I found. My apologies. Let's, Rob Smith, ladies and gentlemen, speaking about leaving the Republican Party.
By white nationalists, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis at the Turning Point USA America Fest event in Phoenix last December. Now, they were not in the actual event. It was an event outside of AmFest.
I got some fans here. I got some fans.
Yes, Nick Fuentes loves gay sex.
I forgot about that part. Pretty nasty. Pretty nasty. You would think a man being accused and being, well, I don't know if there's any accusations, right? I think he's pretty open about that. Gay sex. That's what they were saying. And you would think someone, though, who's being maligned publicly and these people are coming after me. But I guess when you're attacked and you feel the same things inside, you lash out. I don't even see Fuentes in there. They're bleeping out the F slur. That they went pretty hard.
An event with Charlie Kirk.
Allow me, because I don't want to get too lost in some clip here. So I will be pausing. It's not too long. He's talking about the event here.
I think that this was around the fall of 2019, where they came up to me and they said, well, because at this point in time, I was a big conservative, like, oh yeah, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative. I was just sort of so indoctrinated into that identity at that point.
That is so fascinating. Indoctrinated into the identity. It brings into question many things here. Values, what's believing in something. It's even the biblical question, no? Where do your morals and values come from when they can just change so quickly? You wonder, where do they really come from, right? He believes he's betrayed. It's interesting to see him describe it all like this, right? Like I was saying earlier, it's relationships, right? He's judged the frog people, he calls them. These people who are with Fuentes, he says. Nazis and all that, to the point where he's throwing it all away, right?
And so they said, well, what does gay sex have to do with conservatism? And that sort of started to being the rallying cry of the frog people. And the frog people hate me. They hate me, of which, obviously, I was told, this is all allegedly, that a lot of these people are involved in Republicans for National Renewal. And in fact, that this organization is filled with these people. This is what I was told, allegedly, by the way. Republican Party apparatuses. People were mad at me because
this is what I mean.
CNN. Well, let me tell you.
He say, so what I mean by so willing to throw it away, he said, you got to understand something here. Let's say you're Rob Smith. You say you're a Republican, you believe these things. But then you say, and you want conservatism out there, and you see all these young guys who want to get in there, and you're like worried. You're saying, well, I hear there's these organizations are full of these guys. What do you mean? Young white men who want to see conservatism, not who really want to bring a conversation about on what is conservatism really conserving. It's a worthwhile conversation. You know what I mean? And a lot of young people are turning away from all that for that very reason. They see the hypocrisy. There's people who are who've been following politics and they've become jaded from the whole thing because they see just how empty the Republicans are, the conservatives. They're really no different from the Democrats, okay? They just have different garb, different look, different colors. And so I think these young people are kind of seeing, they have a certain instinct about this. They're seeing the Republicans and they're like, we're not, they're the real racists. Love is love, yeah. And they sound just like the Democrats, and they think, you know what, there's got to be a conversation about this. Thanks, Bill. And so that's what I find interesting. Where was I? Let's see if this clip can jog my memory. Hold up.
I'll tell you something. Fox News didn't call. Newsmax didn't call. Ben Shapiro didn't call. Candace Owens didn't call. Dave Rubin didn't call. None of the major...
Oh, I'll let this finish.
Conservative-leaning organizations, Breitbart didn't call. None of the major conservative-leaning organizations or conservative figures wanted to be like, hey, Rob, let's sit down and talk about what's going on, right?
I wanted to let that statement finish because he went on CNN, right? And then he got a lot of flack for that. He went on saying a lot of stuff that CNN would love to hear about Trump supporters and MAGA and white people. So it's interesting, I guess, to point that out, right? Scorned Rob Smith turns on. It just takes it takes a couple of people in a room yelling at him for him to turn on the whole thing. I saw how MAGA treats me. He talks about. But he said earlier, I missed commenting on it. He said earlier, the frog people, they hate me. They hate me because I'm gay and black or whatever. And we can't miss that because, look, I personally don't subscribe to what the media and all these people say about a lot of these types of people Rob Smith is talking about. They're just hateful. And this, they point it out as if it's some sort of extra hate. That's the part that gets me because I don't find if you watch my show and you know that I'm saying anger is the evil part. That's my litmus test, okay? So I can't really see this person more evil than the other. And so the groypers, the frog people, these people yelling at him in that clip, they're just as evil as any other angry person, as evil as Rob Smith, turning on people, getting all mad. You know what I mean? So I wanted to point that out, that they may hate him, and the evidence of it would be if they felt a single thing about him, if they felt anything about Rob Smith, they felt anger and judged him. That would be the evidence of that, okay? Because he may be right? But again, I want to leave that space because they get maligned all the time, and people just say, well, they're hateful because they disagree with things they say. And yet they can't say they're wrong, so they have to say they're hateful. They're all these other things. Meanwhile, not understanding at all what really makes someone hateful, okay? So anyways, I appreciate those young guys' energy and attitude, you know. What was so bad? Think about it for a second. What was so...
because when
what was really so bad about that situation when they're yelling at him like that? When it comes to, when it comes to free men talking, okay, free men just talking, what happened that's so bad? You got yelled at, you didn't like what they were saying. It is a worthwhile conversation about conservatism. What is being conserved, okay? And maligning, going on CNN, maligning them for easy points with the liberals is nasty behavior. Nasty behavior. Let me see if I can finish this.
I did the CNN interview. I wanted the MAGA people to know that, like, I'm not going to turn on you, blah, blah, blah. But then what happened is that all the MAGA people turned on me. And so the reason that I don't identify as MAGA anymore, I don't identify as Republican, or I don't identify as any of this stuff, is because I saw just what the quote-unquote MAGA movement really thought about me. Like, I saw what they really thought about me. And maybe it was silly of me, and maybe it was foolish and stupid of me to think that it was never like that. I identify as politically homeless. I identify as Rob Smith.
Okay. You know what's interesting about that? Anyone ever gone through that? Maybe not everybody, but there's people in my chat, you know, you listen to Jesse. And you say you're working on yourself, right? You may have found people in your lives turning on you and stuff like that. Or otherwise, maybe you just happen to discover this by chance because you said something honest or revealed something about yourself thinking that you had a friend or something like that. Anyone relate? Because you got to understand what Rob Smith is describing. Like I said, it's all relationships. It's like everything. And so we can't miss this interesting point here. He has a point about being an individual, a free thinker. Can the same be said about the groypers? Everybody. Look, I say this to all people because I have people calling me and they're like, Nick, what do you think about Nick Fuentes? And then the caller who I'm talking with, they're like, hey, they agree. They're like, I guess you're right. I really shouldn't be following any one person. I had one caller recently, in fact, just this conversation. They're like, I guess you're right. I shouldn't follow any one person. You shouldn't follow anyone. And the beauty of that is you'll be able to just take everything they say right there in that moment without anything around it. And if you're not an individual, you can't do that. Free thinker and all that. So anyways, you can't judge because you would miss that. I think that's it for this. Yeah, I think that's it for this clip. But we shouldn't be surprised, you know. And I say this because there's people who say things like, oh, I didn't know that this person was into that or said that. They betrayed me. Some people may think Rob Smith betrayed them. I used to follow Rob Smith. I used to follow him. He was, I don't know. You know what I'm saying here? And now they feel betrayed because Rob Smith said this. So anyway, what was I trying to point out there? That you would not even make that mistake if you didn't put anyone in that position in the first place. Okay? You can avoid that in the first place. And Rob Smith may have done that with his MAGA friends and stuff. He's like, why weren't you there for me? That's pretty much the situation 90% of people are in. They just don't know it. Even the MAGA people, even those frog people, they say one thing that's wrong, they might even turn on each other. You see what I'm saying? So what motivates you? What should be the important thing? I guess there's a conversation about that as well. Priorities. Having these titles. Oh, I'm Republican. I'm for MAGA. You could call yourself all sorts of things, right? Christian. I'm a Christian, but you hate Rob Smith, and you get mad at Rob Smith. So yeah, you could call yourself many things. I'm a vegan that eats bacon. Right? What are y'all saying? 888-775-3773. You know, I had a caller call me about Nick Fuentes. He was like, Nick, what do you think about Fuentes? And he says about the Jews and stuff. And I mentioned instincts here, right? There were, I mentioned the instincts of these young guys. They, although they too are just as hateful as anyone else if they have anger. And I would say the same thing to them. I would say the same thing to my caller. Hey, what do you think about Nick Fuentes? Hey, anger is evil. And if you hate, you're like all evil. If you don't love your enemies, you're evil from top to bottom. You know what I mean? And so I mentioned there's people like noticing though, they're getting these, there's all this talk about Jewish people, right? Jews, and they're calling my show, and there's this war going on. There's a lot of people going like, in the conservative movement, they are, what do we say? How do we describe it? They're turning on each other. They're getting all caught up, okay, confused and worrying about certain things. And I think, like I was just saying with Rob Smith and other topics I bring on the show, it all becomes quite clear if you just keep it simple, as I'm trying to say. People have all sorts of tests, litmus tests. What does this guy say about it? What did this guy say about this situation? That's how I should think. What does my ideology say? What does conservatism say? What does Candace Owens say? What does Nick Fuentes say? What does Jesse? You know what I mean? And or you have other litmus tests like, what does the Bible say? And I think you can keep it simple. Keep it simple. All people who have anger are evil. You have a number of ways to there's evidence towards this that someone may think a certain way or that you may be thinking this way. For example, you see a certain kind of evil or a certain type of evil or whatever, or action or bad behavior as worse than others. You see it as particularly evil, a deeper, higher form of evil that whoever commits it is a worse sinner than someone else. These groups of people are worse sinners than, you know what I mean? And that is evidence that you seeing things in a warped way, okay? And so people are kind of seeing that instinctually with some of this Jewish stuff, and they are feeling like they're unable to speak about it. And so Candace Owens had this guy, Rabbi Shmuley, on. And she had him on, and I don't personally know why, but this clip just appeared on my Twitter, okay? And I found it quite interesting. And allow me to get into it. This guy, Jake Shields, shares it. Having this guy, Rabbi Shmuley, represent the Jewish people will cause anti-Semitism to rise. And then the person who shared it says, "Holy F, these people are demonic." They're calling, and I imagine this person means Jewish people, I guess. These people are demonic. So let's watch this clip a little bit, because trust me, there's a couple of things intersecting here. People are seeing this and they're like, see, Jewish people are evil. And then the people see the people reacting like that, and they're saying, no, you're evil for saying that about Jews. And I'm noticing they're all missing what would kind of clear it all up. Okay, so allow me to do this. Candace Owens talking to Rabbi Shmuley here.
Not condemn these horrific events.
Oh, sorry. Let me turn that down. But okay, they're talking about condemning Hamas and Gaza and all that. And if I could just give you a little intro, they're squabbling over what it means to condemn Hamas, because the rabbi here does not like that Candace Owens is equally condemning like Hamas and the Palestinian people over there, and condemning Israel and whatever for the children. And I forget exactly, but the rabbi here is trying to tell her, no, you can't equate the two. You just can't. And there's a couple of things here, so allow me to do this.
You don't condemn them uniquely evil. You put them in pari-passu relationship.
So you're saying that even though I did, so now you're admitting that I did condemn Hamas, even though she refused to condemn Hamas.
What condemnation is? Is this where you really want to go? Is have an English discussion?
No. You wrote she refused to condemn Hamas. These are your words.
Because when you put that, at the moment you say that they have a moral equivalency with anything else, that's not condemnation, no matter what.
I didn't. I said it's sad when an innocent.
It's not condemnation, and
it's not. I'll just ask you a question. Is it sad? Is it sad?
Sure. Sit there and do that.
I don't want to cut each other off, okay? Because clearly what we are having here is just a disagreement. There's no reason to get angry. Do you think? Do you think it is sad?
There is a reason to get angry, he said.
When an innocent Palestinian child dies.
Candace, I cry every day.
What?
And it's not just for Israel. And this is one of the things you clearly do not understand. The same way most don't, who are anti-Semites, who don't get it. I cry for what's going on in Israel. I cry just as much for what we are forced to do.
Damn.
Golda Meir had a great quote.
That's really what I wanted to show you there. So let me just say this off the bat. I don't really like, how should I put this? I don't know her personally at all, but like anytime I've seen her, I don't have a dislike for her personally, but her style, what am I trying to describe here is I'm trying to describe this kind of recent attachment to Candace. People are loving her. It's the Jew critics. They loving her. They're like, yeah, right on, Candace, get them, get the Jews. And I don't personally like all that. I don't like that whole vibe, spirit. Maybe I'm being feminine and only talking about feelings, but call me if I'm wrong. I'm sincere on that. I just don't like it. I don't like how it looks. I don't like how it feels. I can't even put it into words. I just don't like it. Candace is all like, it just seems like she's on one. But let me just comment on this here. I think there are people who are instinctually seeing what maybe some of you already saw in this rabbi here. But now that I've played it again, here's what I was going to say. I was going to say that what I think there are a lot of people who are instinctually seeing this emotional response from Jewish people, and they don't like it. And those people are getting called anti-Semitic and all that. And I believe that's happening to a degree. But now kind of pondering it a little bit more and speaking here on the show, I think it's a lot less people than anybody can imagine. I think it's very few people actually who are instinctually seeing something wrong with the emotions. And I think most people are judging, let's be real. Most people are judging. They're taking sides. They're like, the Jews this and I don't know, Candace or whatever that. But I wanted to show that is wrong in all people, and that can't be trusted in anyone. And if you see it that way, then Candace and anybody watching this isn't safe from the very same accusation. If you have anger, he said that what Hamas is doing is uniquely evil, and I say forgive, right? Forgive. You must forgive. Or else you start calling things uniquely evil. You start getting stuck in the past or the future, what things might happen, things that have happened. And that's wrong for all people. You realize that what these white nationalist people that have gone, they've been banned and censored off into a corner, and what they're saying and typing away about the Jews, in part, they may be referring to a little bit is you're calling this anti-Semitism when I'm just trying to point out. And so they've become maybe angry themselves, and they've become no different than the people they criticize, etc. You following here? So, I don't see how I could be, I don't see where I said anything wrong there. 888-775-3773. Uniquely evil. You know what I mean? And the people who are going around saying this rabbi is uniquely evil, they're no different. I just want to point out that there's some instinct going around that people are maybe seeing, and they're getting shut down. They call it anti-Semitism and all that. And I personally didn't grow up with any kind of like, I think I met Jews in LA for like the first time. So I don't have any opinion, a positive, negative one. I've only ever heard the stereotypes and stuff when I came out here. I don't know if I ever had experience with Jewish people, now that I really think about it. In Canada, anywhere. I had in Canada, there aren't any Jews or Mexicans. There might be Jews and there might be Mexicans, but I didn't meet them. They're very little of them because I don't see them. I didn't meet them up there. What are y'all thinking? Speaking of calling yourself things that you're not. This is an Irish person, by the way. This is an Irishman. What are y'all saying in the chat? What the heck is Nick talking about? We got people coveting wives in the chat. What a mess. Get in there. What take on Israel? I didn't even have a take on Israel. 𝒔𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔. What take did I have on Israel? I did not. If anything, I had a take on people here, Christians. Anyways, I'm backing up the chat, seeing what they were saying. This is probably a mistake. I didn't know Lil Nick was on the show too. Yeah. What's up, y'all? This is an Irishman. Why you don't believe me? This is from the Irish Times reporting on, this might be old news, but it went a little viral on Twitter there the other day. Early Irish people were dark-skinned with blue eyes, reports the irishtimes.com. The Irish. This is an Irishman. That's an Irishman. That's an Irishman. These are Irishmen. And that is not a ridiculous thing to say in the slightest. Here's what I don't understand. How is it that we don't know the skin color of dinosaurs, but we know the color of the ancient Irish? Someone explain that one to me. Or did I just say something totally ignorant? Because that's what I learned. That's what they taught me, that the skin color of dinosaurs is a total guess. So, yeah, dinosaur skin was actually feathers, or no. Yeah, but they can't tell you what the color it was. Let me Google that. Do scientists know the color of dinosaur skin? Look, thank you, Google. Finishing my sentence. How do scientists know the color of dinosaurs? It's just common sense that you can't tell what color dinosaurs are, writes Discovery. whatever, okay? Look, some don't even believe that dinosaurs exist, so. Dinosaurs were mixed. I'm just saying, look, that's what they told me growing up. It's a guess. It's an educated guess. The color of dinosaur skin. But the ancient Irish, that's settled. That is settled. And no, that's not great replacement theory. Don't be crazy. That's not the sign of being replaced at all. Why would you ever say such a thing, great replacement? You sound like Elon Musk. Elon Musk going around saying white people are being replaced, or, just putting out stats, maybe pointing to this possibility. But hey, don't get mad at me. You get mad at Elon in the stats. Elon Musk is going viral with that interview with Don Lemon. Tucker calls him Don Lemon. I don't know what to call him. Don Lemon. That guy was fired from CNN. Right, he was fired. He was let go. Wasn't it after those comments on women? And sounding, Nick, it sounds like you're saying Israel and Palestine are two devils fighting. Yeah, well, you don't? In some aspects, it probably is, Kale. But I wasn't even making that point. That's not the point I was making. Let me not get distracted. We're talking about the Elon Musk, right? CNN. So the story goes that Don Lemon was let go. He was given like a show on Twitter. But then soon after this recorded interview with Elon Musk on Don Lemon's new show, the news came out that Elon lets him go. Some whatever deal they had is no more. And this was, of course, just right after that interview, so people were wondering what happened. Don Lemon releases the interview, and we are now privy to what happened. Many are saying it was a bad move on Don. It's not making him look good. Just gotcha. I did watch a good bit of it. It's all gotcha questions, same old media. So I heard you're a racist. Are you a racist? Because I think you're a racist. And all these things make it sound like you're a racist. Deny you're a racist, sir. Anyway, so neo-Nazism, you're that, right? And anyways, they asked him in one moment here that I'll play for you. It was about great replacement, Don Lemon asks. Don Lemon. And a very interesting hole in Don Lemon's knowledge comes up. One that came up recently on my show. Let us watch this moment, huh?
Talk about the great replacement theory now. Some of the things that you post, the great replacement theory, you claim that Democrats, President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border, you said that the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. But undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections, so how is that possible?
Right. Well, you're conflating two things. One is great replacement theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply saying that there is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and the if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe.
I have to let that play out because whoever posted this clip edited it in such a way it's almost perfect for the way he speaks. That mid-sentence as he's like going on about this, he even said the punchline too. I feel like Elon suffers from that punchline syndrome. Nobody heard the punchline because of the way he speaks, and it was. So,
if there are a concentration of
right here, hold on.
People who came here illegally the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not.
Right there, he was like whether they are citizens or not. And what am I even commenting on here? It's just the way he speaks. Okay, don't worry so much about the way you are. This is proof. Oh, I gotta speak different. I gotta look different. Let's move on though. This is a little point that many people miss. If you remember, Alex Jones had a debate with these very smart liberals. It was the Krasenstein brothers or whatever. It was Alex Jones, Glenn Greenwald, Darren Beatty, big, in the dissident right. Can we call it dissident right? Alternative right, not the mainstream right. Alex Jones leading the way. On the right side, hard-hitting names. On the conversation, the debate, the topic was January 6th, and other things came up like the border. And then on the other side, it was the best of the best for this alternative left, dissident left, whatever you call it. I don't know if you could call it dissident. That's not fair. Were these Krasenstein brothers and I think someone else. And this is supposed to be a major debate. And the liberal side didn't even know that this is how the census works. It's via population, not citizens. And if you have a bigger population in your state, even if they're illegals, the census apportions you more power, more say. Don't you see? Don't you get it? But this is how a lot of these conversations go. Politics and all this emotions. People don't care about the truth. They just want to say something smart that sounds good on camera. I wish I had a button that zooms in. I wish I had a little button that could do like a comedic zoom in or something. I got to figure that one out. I bet you we could do it. I bet you we could do it. And what else can I say? There's not much more to say. You get it. Bloodbath media. They love it. I'm sure you heard how they were maligning Trump in the media. The way they did with the wall comments. They're bringing in... He called all Mexicans rapists and criminals. The other day, one of the Mexicans at the gas station said something like that to me. I'm like, we've been through this, man. We literally been through this. And you were like, okay. I showed you the clip, and you were like, okay. You just want to hate. Okay. Anyways. And they love the censorship. They love it. They love it. Free speech? No. That's dangerous. They see that as actually dangerous. Free speech. Then you'll have people thinking for themselves. Can't have that. So what else about this? What else here? Thank you for that, Kale. I appreciate the support. Thank you for the super chat. Lin Yan Chin coming in strong. Back-to-back super chats. Triple back-to-back super chats. Thank you, Lin Yan Chin. Thank you so much. I gotcha. Your voice note, I'll check it out. The one about Adam and Eve. Let me listen to it. If I already did, let me listen to it again. Lin Yan Chin says, Soul robbed Smith is a mess. Broken sexuality is a side effect of intellect being placed as the master of the mind and fate of the person. Wow. Intellect is the gateway drug to LGBTQ. Yeah. Because people into the intellect are into the emotions and into all that. And then those people, it's easy to justify broken sexuality. It's almost logical in that animal state because all you know is those feelings, and those feelings are love. Anti-Semi-whatevers should follow Bernie Sanders, who repeats the 1% or the 1% to making us know he isn't hating an entire people, just the few among them with all the power over the rest. Lin Yan Chin with a super chat there. Wait, I didn't understand you. Let me read that again. Anti-semi-whatevers should follow Bernie Sanders, who repeats the 1% or the 1%. That's how he speaks, right? To making us know he isn't hating an entire people, just a few among them with all the power over the rest. Appreciate that, Lin Yechen. Thank you. Okay. Are we done with Elon? I think we're done with Elon. I have a bit of a long clip that I want to get into here. A bit of a clip here. I don't know how to. I did cut it down. Hope it's not too long-winded, but it has to do with some fascinating subject matter. Marriage rates, 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. There was a very interesting conversation Pearl had with Michael Knowles from Daily Wire. Michael Knowles. Pearl, she was on Just Pearly Things. She was on The Fallen State and all that. You know her. And they had a very interesting conversation. I want to get into some of the clip here with Pearl and marriage. If I can here, hold on. 888-775-3773. Sanders is a lunatic. What's up, Harmony? How you doing? No isms. I like that. Right on. What's up? Delighted to be here. Yeah, thank you, Lin Yechen. Appreciate that. Nick, stop arguing with the Mexicans at the gas station. But they love it. They love me, and I love it. The thrill. We really don't argue. It's really just passing conversations. Stop fighting with the Mexicans over at the gas station. That's what the Mexicans would love fighting with me when I used to work at the Chateau Marmont. Like, Nick, te amo, colombiano. They would tell me, I love you, Colombia, man. I love you. You're racist. You're son racista, pero te amo, colombiano. Because I made the time go by. They love the thrill, is what they said. They didn't say the thrill part. They said they made the time go by. They loved it. Okay. I think I want to show you this. Because Pearl is talking about marriage with Michael Knowles. She's saying, don't do it. It's not worth it. Michael Knowles is saying, you should get married. I'm married. You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't been married, Pearl. Don't tell men what to do. And Nick pulling rank, Colombia over Mexico totem pole. I don't know if that's how that works. So anyways, Pearl, Michael Knowles talking about marriage. Michael Knowles married 2 sons. Alpha. And right, he's the alpha with 2 sons. And so he brought Pearl on because he wanted to challenge some of this stuff he's been saying about advising men to not marry, or, more accurately, be careful. And that if they were to ask her, hey, Pearl, do you think I should get married? Hey, if you ask her the way marriage is now, she would not advise it for men. So, I think let's just get into it here. How about it? I don't know any other way. So might as well. Boom. Clip. Pearl.
Some of us.
Marriage today is not marriage anymore.
What do you mean by that?
When the average marriage is 7 to 8 years.
Oh.
When women leave 70 to 80% of the time. When women can file abuse or can accuse you of abuse on the way out the door, when women can put you on child support, when women can put you on alimony,
there are many
it
attacks
is not
on marriage.
marriage anymore.
I totally agree.
And
that we're confused about marriage.
I have a hard time telling men to sign up for an institution almost blindly.
I don't think blind. I think they should
with the consequences that come with it.
Don't you think?
And
women,
I've seen men on the other side of it.
You know, you're denying that you're advising men to do anything, even though you're saying it would be a good strategy. To
No,
do that.
I don't tell men what to do. One man might find that Christian virgin chick in the middle of nowhere that goes to Latin Mass. One man might not find one close to him at all. One, and even I know someone that runs a matchmaking service for like Latin Mass.
Great.
No, they're having the same problems. And this is for the Latin community.
So yeah, that's the setup. She does not recommend it. She does not recommend it. Dang, would just pearly things obey, you think? Asks Chris. I mean, I think she's one of those that she says she would. That's a good sign, right? I don't know, Chris. Look, that's the setup. Michael's saying they should be pearls of Grifter. I'm getting a lot of pearls of Grifter in the chat. Hold up, let's let the clip play out a little bit. I think she's taller than Michael Knowles. Yeah, she might be. Okay, so where were we? Pearly thing, she's saying she doesn't recommend it. We haven't let this play enough. Let's go.
Community. I know someone that runs one. He tells me the same thing. There's too many men. There's not enough women in this specific one.
Yeah.
And the women are a bit too high of standards, a bit. So you're going into the churches, you're finding the same problems outside of the churches. Maybe some of them are a little slower.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little slower to hit, right? Like Latin Mass, I would say, is one of the better ones, but there's still a record number of annulments. We still see more liberal
Again,
things.
not among the trads, but in the Catholic Church broadly.
Not among the trads. Now, I'd like to know what the difference is. Anybody know? She points out a stat, the annulments, the stats of annulment amongst the Christians, amongst Catholics. And I was wondering that too the other day. Because this conversation has kind of come up a couple of times. The Daily Wire hosts have tackled it. And they're saying things like, well, yeah, divorce rates are the way they are, but that changes when you look at different demographics and groups of people. But it's still quite interesting, though. You can't deny that divorce remains high, even with amongst the so-called Christian and Catholic people. She describes that dating service/program that some Latin masses were putting on, which I learned is Catholic. Latin Mass, also known as Tridentine Mass, known as the traditional Latin Mass, is the liturgy in the Roman Missal of the Catholic Church, codified in 1570. So yeah, that's, I guess, how the Catholics roll. They got this stuff going where every church under this tridential mass or whatever is doing the same thing all around the world. It's like they're on a calendar, right? And all these churches around the world are doing the same thing on this day, reading the same passage with a little the priest gets to get in there with a little anecdote, a little bit of flavor, but they're mainly reading the same things, singing the same songs. And even those women, they're having the same troubles. Okay, so Michael Knowles.
Correct. And
we're going to take our time with this one. Look, it's a 12-minute clip. It's fascinating. This is just how I'm going to rock it. So kick back. Thank you.
Correct. And so my point is, it's going to be tough to convince men to join these things when even the churches seem to be going left.
Yeah, I agree. But
the churches are teaching egalitarianism. Like
some are.
I went to, and I know a lot of these are anecdotes, but when you start to interview as many people as I have, you start to see patterns. And, I'm hearing from men that the church makes their wives worse, not better, because they're being told in Bible, they're being told in their Bible studies that they're women-led, and they
heretics
get all these...
and schismatics have created problems for all of history.
Yeah, but
it's just heretics. It's just some heretics. Don't ignore the heretics. It's just they've been causing troubles this forever, okay? You're just talking about heretics, Pearl.
I don't think the church is a failsafe in a society that pays women to lead.
Yeah, no. Why is she wrong? Where is she wrong about this? So far, right? We're just keep an open mind. Look, don't be so judgmental. We're just taking everything as it comes, one year at the other. We're not. We're just taking it in as it comes, okay? If you go into marriage scared of it ending in divorce, you will always worry. You're absolutely correct. Everything is fake. And as we get into the clip, I think you'll find Pearl's not saying she wants divorce. And I don't think anybody who is talking about marriage, I know Michael Knowles isn't. And I think most people in this conversation, they don't want this divorce rate. And essentially this is where they agree, right? They see this as a problem. The divorce rates and all that. Pearl's just trying to point out a couple things here. And the churches are messing up women. The Christian women are some of the worst. They use the Bible on the men. They'll judge them and tell them, hey, they use the Bible on them. I noticed, for example, I noticed something Christian women do, especially once they get into Christianity. They're saved. I've been saved. Once women get saved, they suddenly start really seeing all these porn-watching men. And oh no, should they happen to find their husband or man or whatever does such a thing, that's a betrayal on her. You notice that? You notice Christian women, they suddenly notice all the evil sins that man is doing. The churches are teaching the women to judge. So she's not I just like that this conversation being brought up, right? No, I don't think she's saying she wants divorces. So where was I? She's definitely not saying that. It's just interesting, right? Because they want to fix this. A lot of conservatives are talking about marriage, but what's changing? I think Pearl makes a very interesting point about that here in a moment.
There's risk in everything. But to your point, Pearl,
I'm sorry. What did he say? He said, heretics. Heretics are, it's just heretics. When that's kind of like how marriage is, right? I just needed to point that out.
Said that, look, you're not prescribing anything. You're just observing how things are, and the men don't want to get married. And right. I guess what I'm observing is that men still like women, even with all the kind of weird rainbow stuff. Yeah. Men still like women, and women still like men, and they're still going to get together, and they're still going to desire children, or at the very least, they're going to do the things that lead to children. And so that's going to happen, whether you advise them to do that or advise them not to do that or whatever. And so in that case, don't we need to deal with what that institution ought to look like, rather than say, sit on your hands until we change?
No, I say fix the institution. That should be the number one thing, because men are not going to return to people are not going to return to marriage until you make the institution more fair.
Well, what they'll do is they'll return.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what I say. You guys have been preaching marriage for a decade, and the rates of marriage have still been going down. Dang. Why? Because the cost is too high and the quality of women is too low. How do you fix it?
Right, well,
you increase the quality of the women. You say stop being fat. That's the number one. Don't go on OnlyFans.
It might be on the list. I don't know if it's number one.
I mean, for men, that's like the number one thing.
I wouldn't say it.
And so I'm almost like trying.
So I hope you're finding this interesting. Look,
trying to.
I see some pro MGTOWs in the chat. I see some saying, wow, these MGTOW Christian people worried about divorce rates. You guys are just silly. Just get her done and stop worrying about other people's divorce rates and all that. And personally, I think you're both right. You may have heard Jesse before say about MGTOW people, men going their own way. These are men who have joined up a movement or a group. They call themselves MGTOW. And part of what they do is marriage is messed up, the institution's against men, and so we're giving up on the whole thing. Men are going their own way and just saying no to the marriage and no to the whole thing. No to dealing with women and all that. And that's where the problem with that lies. It's a running away. You're not dealing with women. You still got to deal with them. You still got to, because you're still missing what it was that you were missing that didn't allow you to deal with them. It's what you're missing the men part of men going their own way. If you had it, you would be fine. You see what I'm saying here? And you want that. You want to return to that. And so you can't just go off into a little corner because you won't return to that. You'll just still be that. But now you just ran away. So there's a wisdom there. There's really a wisdom there. That does not mean go and get married now. That's not what Jesse's saying. That doesn't mean now go get married and deal with women. No, that's not what, in my opinion, he can speak for himself, right? Like, call Jesse and all that. I'm just saying, like, he's not saying now you should go now quickly, quickly go get married. Oh, you might do that. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just trying to point out that the MGTOW people get that part right. The institution is messed up. And if someone were to ask me, Nick, should I get married? Nick, I'm dating this girl. I want to get married. I've heard so many callers on the Jesse Lee Peterson show at this point.
Plead with the TradCon.
Oops. I feel like I've seen so many clips at this point with so many callers on the Jesse Lee Peterson show at this point. And these are people who listen to Jesse. They hear him say women are evil. They are, unless they forgive, they will be against you. They'll take the kids from you. They'll lie on you and all. Okay. You'll get callers who hear all that and they'll be like, okay, Jesse, I met this woman and she says she's a Christian, but she's you know what I'm saying? She wants to keep if she says if I ever say something like this to her, she'll keep the kids away from me. Do you think I should marry her? I think I will. She's mostly a good girl except for that one thing. And I'm like, really, I don't say this to judge these callers, but I've heard so much of that I'm like, dang, that I wouldn't go around recommending it. Look, what I'm trying to point out is just how out of their depth men are. They're so out of their depth that marriage has become the institution that you see now. It's only allowed by the men, right? But it's the fact that marriage is so messed up that that 70, 80% of women are filing the divorce. They are taking the kids away, that they can put men on child support. What a crazy concept. Is a sign, it speaks to what men have allowed, and so it speaks to what men aren't. Okay, you follow me so far? So anyways, where was I? It speaks to all that. It speaks to the fact that the institution is there. It speaks to what men lack. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so where was I? And that's why I wouldn't recommend it, right? The answer would be no. Work on yourself, and you may find that one girl who you met at church. Although I be very careful with that. I met her at church is too often a recipe for disaster. But maybe you find that one girl. But I'm just saying, if someone were to ask me my advice, I'd say, hey, that's not the answer. Go get married. And then people ask me, let's say someone would call me, ask me for advice, this and that. Nick, I'm in this relationship. What do you think I should do? Please, hypothetical caller who's calling me about their relationship, please reflect and slow down. Do you know, take into consideration the countless callers on the Jesse Lee Peterson show who hear the truth every day and they're like, and for us it's easy because we're in the outside looking in, so it's easy to judge. But they're about to get into hell. They're like, Jesse, should I marry this woman with kids and she's mad at me and she hates me, but she's mostly a good girl? Please take into consideration how often people fall into these traps and how it can happen to you. And don't ask me, Nick, should I get married to this girl? Make that decision for yourself. But again, with a warning of, look at how easily people fall into stuff. So work on yourself is what I would say. I wouldn't tell people go get married. Say work on yourself. And part of that means dealing with women, dealing with what makes you so weak to them, what makes you unable to deal with them in the right way, what makes you feel all these things for them, which are either positive or negative, which are signs that you hate them, by the way. So I just wanted to point that out because I find this all quite fascinating. I'm rambling now. Okay. I find it quite fascinating because they're both kind of right. Michael Knowles wants to change the divorce laws and all that. No-fault divorce, and he's absolutely correct. But then he talks about marriage today like in a fantasy state. Like, yeah, just get married and go to church. Just get married and go to church. And he says this in almost a smug, like, he puts his finger up and he's like, you know, and cutting off Pearl. Like, he just can't wait to tell her, like, you're so dumb, you don't get it. Michael Knowles, there are men more often than you think who are paying child support for children that are not theirs. Let's get to it. There's some fascinating parts of this clip. Let's in fact get to it.
You are not going to get anywhere shaming men for not getting married. The only way that you are going to see progress is by making the institution more fair for men and giving fathers access to their children.
But when you say make the institution more fair for men, you're saying make divorce a little nicer for men. I think divorce is the problem.
No,
not the solution.
I agree with you. I don't believe. I don't believe.
See, she agrees. She doesn't want divorce. She's just trying to point out this thing here. I think a lot of these conservative men are totally missing it. They're like, they just see their beautiful wife. They're like,
in divorce. Okay, so if we could ban divorce tomorrow, great. But I think for the time being, so if we could do that,
yeah,
you know, let's go.
Yeah, right.
But for the time being, it's like, okay, at least there should be mandatory DNA testing at birth. I don't know.
This one was a controversial one. Mandatory DNA testing. And no need to comment it. Let's just move on.
Because it's calling my wife a whore to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I guess I can't comment. But that how you personally take that, like, what are you calling my wife a whore? It's like, nobody's doing that. Pearl's just pointing out how this really does happen, though. This really does happen to men. And maybe you individually want to opt out, huh? But can we talk about that? Why is that a instant offense? Instant offense. Wouldn't you want to, let's say you're the woman, wouldn't you want to know just in case they got switched by accident? You know what I mean? It shouldn't just be an instant offense.
Why? If people want to opt out of it, fine.
But this is a minor thing. This is really not the important part. This mandatory DNA testing at birth. And they kind of get lost in the weeds here a little bit. Michael Knowles goes hard on this point. You're contradicting yourself and blah, blah, blah. When that's not really even the main thing here. So let's not get lost in the weeds with mandatory DNA testing comment. And let's see if I can skip forward a litlittle bit.
Of like situations that...
Pearl, I have been in the situation and you have not. I've been in the birthing room twice.
No, I'm talking about...
Jesus wasn't married, etc. You've heard it before. You can comment on things even if you haven't done it. It's an interesting point to bring up, though. Michael knows there. Because, he did go for it. And a lot of people they're stuck in the what-ifs. They're stuck in the stats and the what-ifs, saying, I don't know if I should in the stats. That doesn't look good. So I'm not going to do it. That's also a mistake. Going around saying, well, the institution of marriage is messed up.
About a man
is one thing, but then it's another thing to get fear from that too. If you're that one guy who's found that girl and you've taken it slow and you see that she'll be a decent mother, she's not this feminist, she may even be working on herself, then you're that one guy. And what I'm saying right now, I'm not even talking about you, so don't get mad. Hypothetical one guy. So anyways.
Raising a child that's not his.
Oh, yeah.
It's not an uncommon thing. This stuff is serious, Michael. And you are not going to see marriage return until you start enacting policies that protect men from the institution of marriage as it is today.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but we don't disagree on that. Right.
Then what's the argument for?
What marriage is, why it's still good to do, no matter what the policies are.
Wait, what? I thought you just said, Michael Knowles, you literally just said, We don't disagree on that at all. You got to make marriage less risky. So you agree with the whole crux of her argument. So what the heck have you been arguing about this whole time? And then she asks him just that. And he says, well, that marriage should be done anyways, no matter what policy. What did you just finish saying? Can we have some awareness when we're speaking a little bit? And this goes for me too. What did you just finish saying there?
Or why man is inclined toward it.
No, any policy?
Yeah, I think marriage is always good.
Any policy.
Yeah, I think any country in the world at any time in history, it's basically good to get married.
So
the question for
it's basically good to get married. It's just always basically good. It's all these assumptions that kind of get me a little bit. We need to have some awareness. And that's a very funny comment. Hake in my chat writes, why was he in the birthing room? Why he in the birthing room? That's funny. He was there for his wife. He had 2 sons, Hake. Don't be judging.
Was if my son were married and his wife cheated on him and had a kid by another man, would I support my son divorcing? I do not support divorce under any circumstances. So, I think
Okay, if you missed it, they asked, Pearl's producer out there asked him, Michael Knowles, a hypothetical, because they were talking about, well, he's saying divorce is never good, and no matter what policy, even though he just got finished agreeing with Pearl on, well, the institution has to change. That's why men aren't getting married. Despite 10 years of preaching, you got to get married. It's not working. But something's wrong there. Something's wrong with the whole gambit here. And he seems to agree with that, but then he's like, okay, whatever. Pearl's producer said, okay, what about, this is actually more common occurrence than people think. What about men who are forced to pay child support and raise children that are not theirs? They find out years later that it wasn't theirs. Michael Knowles says, I don't support, kind of a little, did he answer the question? I don't know. He said, I just don't support divorce no matter what. And so the Pearl's producer brings up the Bible. We got the Bible coming in. We got scripture, Matthew 19, or is it 1 Corinthians 7? Let's go. Let's start here. 1 Corinthians 7, where it says, don't worry, you may not hear the producer, but Michael Knowles repeats it.
He doesn't say that. But so the question that was brought up from off camera was, what about the so-called exceptive clause in the Gospel of St. Matthew, where our Lord says, what God has joined, let no man separate, except for the case of porneia. And what's curious about this so-called exceptive clause, which in recent centuries, some Protestants have interpreted to mean that if your wife cheats on you, you can divorce her, but which had not been understood that way for the vast majority of the history of the church, and certainly and still is the case in the Catholic Church. And
so if he's raising a kid that's not his, you would support them staying together?
I oppose divorce in all circumstances. Yeah.
In all circumstances. I don't know. It feels like a strange, rigid way of I've noticed, I could be wrong, that when someone applies something clunkily in this way, where they're like, divorce in all cases. I guess what I'm trying to say is I noticed that when people trying to apply these kinds of statements broadly like this, it kind of shows that they may be missing something here. Because then what's marriage, right? I thought marriage was a thing God put together. People come together and it wasn't God. Anyway, so what was I saying? Pearl, Michael Knowles, what was I? What the heck did they just say? Oh yeah, about the baby and taking care of someone else's baby, being lied to, which happens. He brings up the Bible and anyone heard of this exceptive clause and all this? Well, it was in the Gospels, but it wasn't in this Gospel, so it's just a contentious thing. That sounds like a difficult way of ordering your life. It sounds confusing. What did this council say in year this, and the Catholic? What did the Latin Mass Church say in the year 1510 about this? Sounds like a strange way of of ordering your life. I don't know. Maybe one of these Catholics or something would say I'm blaspheming, putting words into God's mouth. But I see him as a reasonable person, and I just can't imagine him getting mad at you for not wanting to take care of someone else's child and being lied to. You know what I mean? Being lied to that's not your kid. So then the whole basis of the marriage is fake. It's not like forgiving someone for whatever reason, for cheating even. And they truly didn't mean it. This would be like, okay, well, the reason we got married is to have kids, and this kid is fake. So what the heck are we even doing here? Hopefully you see somewhat what I'm trying to get at. It's a long clip and really disjointed somewhat here in the reporting. And but hopefully you find this interesting, at least, in that even the people talking about marriage, it's just not enough. The order has to be there, right? The order has to be there. And you can see that if you're paying attention, maybe. It's really not there, even the people who are Christians and all that. And I don't know about Michael Knowles. I'm just saying kind of generally. I see that in the churches. They're very feminine. And they preach egalitarianism, like Pearl was saying. She's not wrong about this. Again, I'm not commenting on Michael Knowles even. It's just, how can you deny this? How can you deny this when even divorce in the church is high? Even when the rates are the same for the church. So I don't know. There's people in my chat like, hey, don't worry about the stats. Just do it. I don't know if I would go around advising people like that. You might give them the wrong advice. Let them work on themselves. They'll know. Then you'll know if you should get married to that person. Work on yourself. That way you could be someone who should even be in a marriage in the first place. Anyways, shall we finish this up here? Hope you find this interesting. Let's see if we can move on a little faster here.
Yep.
Wow.
That's a conservative view, not a liberal view.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm liberal in that one.
Yep.
So,
no, I think you're liberal in a lot of ways, and I think the red pill is liberal in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
which is why they're ironically just the flip side of the feminists.
Well, I disagree with that because, again, you guys are the ones pushing men into a feminist institution, which marriage today is. Again, you're not going to see marriage return.
Well, marriage has been around long before Mary Wollstonecraft and feminism.
Okay.
It's a universal institution that has been around as long as human beings have been around.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little silly to call it a feminist institution.
Well, the way it's run today is.
I think
the way it's run today, it's 7 to 8 years.
Red pill Nick. That's funny. Hey, appreciate that. Glad you find it interesting. No, see, this is the thing. I wouldn't even say, I'm not even going with the red pillars or the MGTOW. I feel like they could all learn from each other, as we should all be doing all the time. I'm learning from you. I'm learning right now, and all that, right? We should be learning from each other, and I really think the MGTOW, the red pillars, and Daily Wire, they could all really learn something. Like, for example, Michael Knowles and these people and people that agree with him, they can learn a little something here from Pearl. Look, it sounds like they really just think the church. They just say these things like it's like they're in a fantasy land. He's saying, I almost even just forgot.
The way it's run today, it's 7.
Yeah, it's a feminist institution. He's like incredulous about it. He's like, marriage? What are you talking about?
To 8 years.
Marriage has always been what it's always been. It's marriage from God and da-da-da. Well, those are just words. Those are just words, Michael Knowles. Your church, the same church, is a mess. They worship the woman. To tell them to forgive your mother is radical wacko land. Is wacko off the deep end land. To say forgive your mothers is wacko land. We have Christians who come to church fellowship on Sundays with Jesse. They'll hear him say forgive your mothers, and they're like, this is unbiblical, blasphemous. So you got to understand that they can all learn from each other here. So I find it that's why I find it interesting. I wouldn't call myself red pill for that reason, because because then I wouldn't be learning. What else do we have to say about this? Can we move faster here? 888-775-3773.
It's a different, to say whiskey is tasty and every man should decide if he wants to have
Oh, yeah, I think we can end it off with this. His prescription to men. He advises them.
What do you think the solution is moving forward for men?
For men, I think at the political level, it would be to reform the divorce laws.
How?
And to ban no-fault divorce, to disincentivize divorce as a financial and political matter, to eradicate feminism from public life entirely, the whole preposterous ideology at every single level. Individual level, I've now restored families, which is, I'm pleased to say.
Wow, good job.
I would recommend that individuals behave in accordance with right reason and virtue. So you've already gotten rid of the liberalism and the feminism. You've gotten rid of this subjectivism and the kind of language you use, which is just do whatever you want, man. I don't think people ought to do whatever they want. I think
that's so unfair. That's not what she's saying at all, about do whatever you want.
Ought to do what is right, and that will cultivate their desires, their very desires, to incline them, imperfectly because it's a fallen world, but largely toward things that are good and conducive to their flourishing, which is how we lived until relatively recently.
So I don't
you know, he's not, and she's about to say, I don't disagree. No, I don't think anybody should be able. Where is he wrong about that? He's absolutely, that's based. The divorce, no-fault divorce has been an absolute travesty for marriages and
well, be politically involved.
My bad. And women have been definitely using that willy-nilly, no problem, 70, 80% of the divorces. As soon as they got that, that get out of jail card, no fault divorce, they're like, let's use it right away. So he's not wrong about that. And changing that is definitely maybe a step in the right direction, and changing the institution, for example. Because you can't, it's not about changing their hearts, but at least you're not incentivizing all this crap, incentivizing single mothers, incentivizing divorces, etc. But they get into an interesting thing here, and in the final moments of this clip, on obeying.
I don't advocate an individual political quietism. They ought to be politically involved and elect good candidates and things like that. They ought to, at a practical level, go to church, work hard, put away the porn, don't do like drugs, do things you want to do, date in a way that is virtuous, and then get married and have children and be fruitful and multiply, because if we can't out-argue the liberals, we might at least outbreed them.
And what?
Can't out-argue them, might as well outbreed them. I don't know if you realize, does he really think that conservatives are like outbreeding them? That Christians are out here making babies more? Does he really believe that? It's like a waning thing, don't you see it? The churches are waving LGBTQ flags. You got female preachers. Women are at the pulpits, and they're not always a Methodist church. So I don't know if he really believes that. Here's the interesting part about obeying.
What do they do if women don't want to get on their program?
Pearl, I guess you have a dimmer view of men than I do. I think men can be very persuasive, and I think that men can lead women in bad ways and in good ways.
Okay.
And so I would recommend that men take a leadership role, as we once had in the family and in society.
Can men lead women that don't want to follow?
Yeah.
Okay, I disagree.
He said that so weakly too. In my opinion, I don't really. He's like, yeah. But can men lead women that don't want to be led?
To follow.
Or women that don't want to follow?
And take a leadership role, as we once had in the family and in.
And he's absolutely correct about that, right? Very based. I mean, he's just absolutely correct about that. Got to take a leadership role. And he's even right about the influence thing. Men do, both positive and negative.
Can men lead women that don't want to follow?
Yeah.
Okay, I disagree.
Yeah.
I don't think men.
Is that just me?
Can lead a woman that doesn't want to follow them.
I
think that's a recipe for disaster.
I think that will and desire are shaped by all sorts of things, including the persuasion of good men.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you can lead a woman that doesn't want to follow you. So I think that's a recipe for disaster, personally. But I think until.
I think she's absolutely correct. Hold on, let her finish her statement.
The quality of the wives go up, and the risk goes down.
How's the quality going to go up?
Told you step one, the treadmill. I mean, that's the first thing guys look at, right?
Treadmill. Anything else?
No, not being fat.
What else?
I mean, I think women, it's better if we save our virginities for marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And Pearl, I think, has other, I forget what she says too, other physical things. But what was it that I want to comment on there? Jeez. What's wrong with me? Oh, yeah. A woman that does not want to follow. You can't make her. And that's look, like I was saying, he's not wrong about the influence. Men do have this influence, and they have this responsibility, or even this effect, even if they don't realize it. They have this positive and negative influence on women, no matter what. It's like it's how it's set up, whether they know it or not. That being said, though, what is influence? You got to understand the nature of what that is, of what influence. Influence is a totally natural thing. It's a totally, whether it's positive or negative, it's happening without your part in it, okay? You're influencing people negatively, positively, without you're not playing a part, okay? It's because that's how you are. You following me here? And so in that, maybe Michael Knowles, I don't know what he really thinks, but maybe Michael Knowles is kind of missing that level of that, where you can't make anyone do anything. And so the influence that Michael Knowles is talking about, I don't know if he knows he's talking about it, is a totally unseen influence where the man doesn't do anything. He's not trying to convince her of anything, because you really can't convince anyone of anything. And a woman who does not want to follow will not follow. And women today just don't want to follow. That's just true. And the reason is for a couple, I mean, you'll maybe talk to red pillars and they'll say feminism. And they're not wrong. But that's all downstream from something else, okay? Oh, the feminism has brainwashed the women. But how did the feminism come about? Because the men weren't there to stop it. And so women don't want to get married because there aren't men, and men don't want to get married because there aren't any women. So what do we conclude here? What do we conclude here? That that the women have to want to. Are you lost here a little bit? My apologies in the way I'm speaking. But the women don't want to because the men aren't men, etc. You following here? So it comes back to working on yourself. It comes back to working on yourself. Calm down and work on yourself. It's not go be fruitful and multiply and be a good conservative. It's time to be a good conservative and wear a suit and get your 401k and get married and get her pregnant. Okay, stop messing around. Stop just doing whatever you want, and you're just being a liberal. Stop being a liberal, huh? Stop being a liberal and get married. It's not quite the answer. It's missing something there. Okay, just be a Christian. Just go to church. Find yourself a nice church girl. Am I making some sense here, folks? So I found this all quite fascinating. I hope you did too. What else about this? I think we're done. A little long-winded. Appreciate the patience. But I think that's all here. Michael Knowles, Pearl, they can all learn from each other. Red Pill, MGTOW. And I think the Daily Wire conservatives can learn something here too. I don't think you need to sit there with your leg crossed going all like, I'm the married one, okay? You're not the married one. You don't know what you're talking about. So, excuse me, unmarried people. We're going to go over here and be married. You can join us. Can we stop with that? Can we stop with that? This whole, the conservative people, Daily Wire, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian. Stop with this leg crossed, oh, yeah, you could join us if you want to, or you could go be a liberal. Stop with this. That's not really helping, because then we can't really deal with the problem and the rot within the conservatives and the Christians and the church. The church is a mess. And like Pearl's saying, a lot of men are finding out that the church is making their wives worse. So please, can we have a good conversation about it? Anyways. You see? Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate that. Let's finish off this segment with one final clip. Here's Pearl. One last clip here. This is after that interview with Michael Knowles. She's commenting on a moment from that very same interview. After the fact, she's on her YouTube channel. Let's watch. She comments on a particular moment. I'm repeating myself. With Michael Knowles. And let's watch.
So last week I went on the Michael Knowles show. And when I went on his show, we had a bit of a disagreement. Now, this disagreement was I was saying that women that have partaken in sex work should not qualify to be wives in general. I would never tell someone I loved that was a man to date a woman with a history of that, regardless of how much she repents and says sorry later. Now, on this show, me and Michael were talking about a young woman who repented after watching his show. I didn't know during the show we were talking about two different women. I was talking about a woman that had gone viral that week. He was talking about a different woman I didn't know.
So you're following so far? There was a misunderstanding on a woman here. And who Pearl is talking about is, I think I even mentioned this woman. That OnlyFans model turned Christian. The one who was like, who went viral for saying cheating is such a fantasy. She didn't even say it like, oh, it's such a fantasy. She said, it's such a fantasy. Oh, cheating is such a fantasy. You remember that girl? She was an OnlyFans model, if you don't know, which is important information because there's a lot of clips going around, going viral, and it's women. And it's women saying this or that about relationships and marriage and sex. And they'll say something like, I love a man who cheats, and oh, I love a man who's just evil, and blah, blah, blah. And then all these men are sharing those clips, and they're like, see, this is why I'm not going to get married. Because women are like this. Fellas, these aren't normal women. These are porn stars. These are sex workers. They're barely women. That's a joke. That's a joke, YouTube. But they're not normal women, okay? So don't be thinking like these are sex workers, okay? This particular one, though, had a change of heart. She got baptized. She went viral. Her video of her getting baptized went around. You seen it? And I don't know. People are getting all into it. Like, she's real, okay? You don't get to judge her. Her journey with Christ is real. Oh, yeah? Then why didn't she delete her OnlyFans yet, huh? And then she deleted it. And people were like, see, she deleted it. It's real. And I made my commentary on that the other day. All people who have anger don't know God. What do you want me to tell you? Even if she gets baptized and all that. The very same, the flip side of the coin is true. Even if you did OnlyFans and all that, if you forgive, it's all gone. It's all over. It never happened. So before you go around, I guess, judging and figuring out, is this a real Christian or not? Know that that's the only thing that matters. And then turn it on yourself. So where were we? Pearl. She's talking about this same person I just mentioned. And they had a little bit of a disconnect in understanding with Michael Knowles.
Now, the woman I didn't know wrote an essay about me talking about how she was truly repented and how dare I question her repentance. Now, I thought this was hilarious because I wasn't even talking about her. I didn't know who she was. And the funny thing is, I start going back and forth with this chick. And she started it, by the way. She started with the essay. I didn't even know who she was. And she responded and asks me to fight. I say, come on my show. Let's have a discussion about this. And she wants to fight me. Now, imagine if a young, naive guy signed up for this and bought this bullshit.
Oops.
The way these women respond to me is exactly how they respond to their husbands. So imagine her husband disagreeing with her. And mind you, if she got married, she would feel far more emotion for a husband than for me. They disagree. She tries to fight him. This is why men sharing notes and experiences is very important, because it causes young men to make decisions that they don't know the consequences. that woman would have power to take his kids away. That woman would have power in divorce court.
This is an interesting moment, no? She was not talking about the person that Michael Knowles was talking about. So there was a misunderstanding there. But yet through that misunderstanding, it's almost like the OF girl, and not the one that she was talking about, but the OnlyFans model turned Christian, who many were defending, and they were like, I can't believe Pearl's going to say something about her and judge her journey. Her mask slips and says, I'll fight you, Pearl, I'll fight you. Whoa, what happened to the born again? I thought, and so it's so funny because in that, whoever was thinking this OnlyFans girl turned Christian, she would be a good wife, would actually be dodging a bullet if they went the other way and heard Pearl. And heard Pearl's advice to, hey, I wouldn't date someone with that history. And I bring it up because it's interesting in that, like I said, there was people defending this whole thing. They were like, you don't know her journey. Don't judge her. How can you advise someone not to be with someone just because they had a past? And there's like a wisdom, obviously. Obviously, the past is the past. Just because someone did something yesterday doesn't make that person who they are today. And you would do well to have that mentality, because then you'd go around not judging. That being said, the question was, would you advise someone? And she said, someone you loved. Would you advise someone you loved to get into a relationship with someone with that history? You see what I'm saying? You see how it changes a little bit? Would you advise someone? Well, if they're asking me, no. If they're asking me, heck no. Look at the you see what I'm saying here? And then, work on yourself. And then, hey, maybe you're seeing something I don't see. You're in that situation. It's your life. Why are you asking me for advice anyways? Jeez, advice is such a strange thing. But hey, it's your life. And maybe you found the one who truly repented. But know this. Know how rare it is. Just know this. Know just how rare it is. And be wise. And know yourself so that you may know what you're getting into. Because it's rare. You have people who call themselves Christian. They get baptized and everything. And then they'll want to fight you because they disagree. And everybody was defending her. Hey, she said it. She said she's born again, so how dare you? How dare you, Pearl? That is so funny. Work on yourself. Stop trying to advise people, maybe, too. That's another thing. What the heck do you know about their lives anyways? Work on your life and know that that's the only thing working for you anyways. So why would you advise someone else on anything else? Okay. Joel, do the robot dance behind Nick. What's up, King of Waco Mundo? Hope you found that interesting. I hope you found that fascinating. Hope you found that fascinating. What are y'all saying in the chat here? Yeah, I got one more thing to show you. It's wild, more excitement, thrill for all of you who already fell asleep. A final clip here. We were talking about squatters in the last segment here. Before we leave, before we bid adieu for today's show. Just catching up with the chat a little bit here. Seeing what the chat is up to. Renesio, man, thank you for the coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/anchorbaby. Renesio writes, hey, Nick, I remember our conversation. Arguments at the gas station. I think I lost that debate. That is funny, man. Right on, Renesio. I appreciate the support. Renesio. And that's all the super chatters and all the peeps. Thank you, thank you. You heard about the squatters, though. Squatters have all sorts of rights. I got a clip for you I think you might enjoy. A clip that we can maybe turn off our brains a little bit here. Look at this crazy thing. There's a lot of landlord hate. I think is the reason, I think explains why something like this can even happen. You might wonder, how can something like this happen? I want to show you. Anthony Cumia shares a little clip here of a woman in Queens, New York, with her $1 million home. She removes a squatter from her $1 million home, and she ends up arrested in this incredible clip. I think we go watch this, huh? You've heard about this, though? Have you heard about this? Landlords are like evil. They're just they're just money grubbers and all that. And they're just getting way more money than they need and oppressing renters and all that. What do y'all think about that? Anybody know the reality? Because my first instinct is, of course, well, people are judging the landlords. They want freebies. Who's gonna provide you a home? They're taking on the risk. It makes me think of the business owners and how people have similar hatred to CEOs and corporations. It's like, well, who's making jobs? You're missing another part of the equation here. A lot of judgment going around. But I want to also leave some space. I don't want to just throw out basic conservative responses. Well, who's gonna provide you a home and take on the risk, huh? Liberal? I don't want to just have a canned conservative response, because sometimes in these economics conversations, the liberals get at something that the conservatives are ignoring. And their conclusions are usually crazy, but they're still a worthwhile conversation. So if anyone knows on the landlord situation, is there something that the conservatives are missing here? I would like to know. That being said, I think this landlord hate, which all hate is illogical and based in evil and insanity and chaos, is the reason why a clip like this can even exist. Let's watch.
A property owner confronts a group of people she says moved into her $1 million home in Queens, and our cameras were rolling as dozens of officers showed up.
Several people were taken away in handcuffs, and one of those arrested may surprise you.
Investigative reporter Dan Krauth joins us now with more on what happened. Tell us, Dan.
Well, this is a very big growing problem. I received dozens of tips from viewers about this in just the past week. I went to do what I thought was going to be a routine interview. Instead, we capture what police and property owners are dealing with on a daily basis.
I have video of you. Who are these people? Out the situation. Yeah, but they're in my house, man. Relax. No.
To understand how this day ended,
We need the police right away.
with multiple 911 calls and arrests, we have to start at the beginning.
Adele, the hardest question is, how do you say your name?
We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6th and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home?
It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation.
And I think they only have rights because people hate landlords, which I think is misplaced.
And they do their work and their job, will be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home. And now she's back.
Rights come with responsibilities, I heard once.
After wrapping up our interview, a woman showed up.
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house? Why are you here?
She unlocked the front door, saw our cameras, and took off.
It's open. Let's go in the house. It's open.
Adele and her daughter, with the property deed in hand, went inside.
This is my furniture. These are my curtains.
She didn't just find her belongings inside.
There's a man sleeping right there. Get out of my house.
Can this go to court? I'll do jury duty for this.
Found two.
The state of California. I'm not delinquent in jury duty. Put me in, coach.
Men.
How long have you lived here?
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally. The door was open.
Police started interviewing neighbors and looking for documents.
Do you have something that shows that you've been here for more than 30 days?
They took the man who told me he had been renting for 2 days out in handcuffs.
They got one out.
And escorted the other guy off the property.
Now you're afraid to come out.
I'm not coming out. This house is empty. This is my home. My locksmith is on the corner waiting to change my locks. And it's not fair. It's not fair that I, as the homeowner, should be having to go through this.
She's barricaded.
Minutes later, a locksmith showed up, but police gave her a warning before they left.
I may end up in handcuffs today if this man shows up here and says that I have illegally evicted him.
Whoa.
I said to them, let him take me to court the way I've been told to take him to court. But today,
the lawyer would keep Nick on the jury because he looked Mexican. Nice. I'll make sure to shave my beard a certain way too. Get the Danny Trejo going a little more, and I'll do it for justice. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I'm not leaving my house.
Less than 10 minutes after police left and the locks were changed. The man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With the other guy.
What happened to white people? Because there's people in my chat saying, "What's wrong with the blacks?" Evil isn't all people, right? Okay. That may be proportions might be involved here, okay? That's a story for us another time. We're not talking about that right now.
Police took off the property.
Do you see this? This guy just literally broke down my door, broke through myself and my daughter to get in here. This guy just forced himself into my house.
I do it for my daughter.
Yes, he did. And so did you. You broke through the front door.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue.
So if you don't know some details, by the way, about squatter rights and all this, and I only know this from watching a whole bunch of body cam arrests of squatters, okay? And I've heard this. I'm telling you this is coming from body cam footage of officers describing the law, okay? And what you might wonder, how can this even happen? A little information is, let's say it can happen. There's a number of reasons how you can end up in this situation, right? Let's say you were a legit renter and then you stop paying rent. There's a number of ways that you could end up in this situation. But essentially what happens is a person who the landlord, who the legal owner of the property says shouldn't be there, the dispute comes in when the person saying they should be there can prove it. And the proof is pretty low bar usually. It's just usually for cops. It's usually just that you receive mail and you have a key or you have a way of entering. And receiving mail sometimes by itself in some states, I've seen some videos where that was the only evidence. But receiving mail, getting a bill there too is another one. But receiving mail and being able to show that you can enter is enough to lawfully say that you live there. And if you can lawfully show that you live somewhere, and the bar for evidence is low, then now the law requires the landlord to get a whole process, an eviction process and all this, just to get someone out. And these things can go on for a long time. There are whole organizations who will find people in these situations and back them up legally and pay for their legal cases, sometimes even going as far as paying some back pay rent just to keep the appeals going, and they keep them in here squatting for even longer, bleeding these landlords dry. And I don't know what to tell you, but that's how it goes down.
And by law, it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own this.
Exactly,
Yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
I got proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If
Who
you don't
are
want to
you?
show it, you don't want to show it.
Proof. Come here, bro.
Who are you?
I would like to see it.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had.
That's why, if you've ever heard, I used to hear this from older folks, and I didn't know why, but I hear it. I hear like older folks say about a guest that's staying with them, and they notice that they're receiving their mail, and they'd get mad. They'd be like, "Why is this house? Why is your mail coming here?" And I'm like, I've seen that people get mad at that before, and I'm like, dang, it's just a little mail. I realize now it's because they're not planning on leaving.
Had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested
For what?
for being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed is current and legal.
So she's totally objecting what he's saying. My deed is current and legal. I own the house. And he's just throwing that in. She's fighting it.
Arrested for
Who knows?
unlawful
Who knows?
eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court, and we deal with the judge in court.
So again, in this particular situation, who knows? It's an amazing clip though to play.
You know,
a nice. Oh,
I would say.
What's playing? What's playing? Stop playing clips. Thank you, Pearl. We're done with you. And I brought that story up to filibuster and waste the last few minutes of the show here. I don't have a call or anything. But honestly, when really thinking about it, there actually might be some insight here as well. Personally, I think the only reason this is happening is because you can say things like landlord hate, like that's normal, like that's okay. And the criminal it's a kind of an upside down world, right? You got everybody feeling bad for people. And so when you have a society that feels bad for people, who do they feel bad for? They're actually feeling bad for. They're not usually feeling bad for good people. Not that anyone's good. But notice this. The heart is evil. Pretty much everyone's evil, right? And people are thinking that people are good when they're not. And who are you more likely to kind of assume, well, they're not so bad. It's their circumstances, not their fault. It's the people you feel bad for. And that's how our society is kind of ordered. This feminine, woman-centered society feels bad a lot. And so when you have a society that feels bad, guess who becomes the good guy? The criminals. That's who becomes the good guy, because those are the people who are, it's not their fault. It was their circumstances, is all that. The most evil people of society then become actually the heroes, because we have a feel-bad society. We have a society that feels bad for people. And usually the people you feel bad for aren't more often actually worse, way worse than you think. I feel bad for this homeless person on the street who can't eat. And that person is like an insane person, or a Romani scammer who doesn't remember the name of her kids. More often than not, the people you feel bad, I feel bad for, even the people who are like, for example, developmentally disabled, and they're like they can't even speak, and they're like shaking, and they're like they have to be cared for, and their hand has to be held, and they have to live with their moms until they're like 30, 40. You're like, oh, I feel so bad for them. And what you don't know, and this is all hypothetical, what you don't know is if that person had a chance, they would kill you in a autistic rage. They'd smash your head in. You know what I'm saying here, folks? Hopefully you understood something here. The feel-bad society. Anyways, that's my show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, American Anchor, baby. I see your calls coming in now. A little too late. Call me tomorrow, 888-775-3773. But call me tomorrow. I'll be back for American Anchor, baby. Noon. Wednesday, we got Manhood Hour, JLP Show, The Hake Report, Joel Friday, and more American Anchor, baby. All right, y'all. I will say goodbye. Hold on. All right, y'all. Goodbye for real now. Peace.